بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. So we are now on greater sins, the 22nd one mentioned in the book, Khayanat. He said the 22nd greater sin is defalcation or misappropriation of property. Misappropriation of property as a greater sin is stated in the Quran and authentic narration related by Shah Abdul Adim from Imam Jawad alayhi salam, also from traditions of Imam Sadiq, Imam Qadham, and Imam Rida alayhi salam. Khayanat is itself as an Arabic word. In the tradition of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, as related by Amash, the word khayanat is used in the list of the greater sins. Another Arabic word used for this same thing is ghulul. Ghulul is used in the narration quoted by Imam Rida alayhi salam. It says, according to some lexicographers, ghul denotes misappropriation of a property obtained as spoils of war against the disbelievers, which is not yet been distributed amongst the Muslims. However, other scholars maintain that ghulul applies to every kind of embezzlement. So what we can say is that this sin, khayanat, is misappropriation of something that was entrusted to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in Surah Al Imran, ayat 161 to 162, and he who eats unfaithfully shall bring that in respect of which he has acted unfaithfully on the day of resurrection. When we see that, meaning like eat or devour, sometimes these words are used, it means like to misappropriate or to use unjustly, or to, it says like don't eat the wealth of the orphans. And no one's eating their wealth, but they're misappropriating their wealth and they're taking it like as their own. The ayah continues, then every soul shall be paid fully what it has earned, and they shall not be dealt with unjustly. Is then he who follows the pleasure of Allah like him who has made himself deserving of displeasure from Allah, and his abode is the hellfire, and it is an evil destination. Also in Surah Tahrim, ayat 10, Allah sets forth an example to those who disbelieve, the wife of Nuh and the wife of Lut. They were both under two of our righteous servants, but they acted treacherously towards them, so they availed them nothing against Allah, and it was said, enter both the fire with those who enter. Also, Surah Anfal, ayat 58, surely Allah does not love the treacherous. So it's being treacherous with the other person because they are misappropriating intentionally their things. It says also the next Surah Anfal, ayat 27, O you who believe, be not unfaithful to Allah and the Apostle, nor be unfaithful to your trust while you know. So when someone entrusts us with something, we have to look after it and take care of it like it is our own, or even better than that. Another place, Surah Nisa, ayat 58, says, surely Allah commands you to make over your trust to their owners. So this is a command from Allah, that when someone entrusts us with something, we have to turn the trust back to that person the way they gave it to us, not deficient or not, misappropriate it or use it for ourselves and don't give it back. Someone gave us $1,000 and they come in to collect the $1,000 that we were holding for them, and we said, oh, we spent it and we went to, the amusement park, or we went this and that and went on vacation or something. Sorry, I don't have your money. This would be misappropriating that trust. So this is from Quran. So from narrations, we have from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that one who embezzles a property in his charge and does not deliver it to its owner and dies in such a condition, then he does not die in my community, meaning he doesn't die as a Muslim. Na'udhu billah. When such a person meets Allah, he will be infuriated with him. And one who purchases an embezzled property, knowing that it is embezzled, is just like the one who embezzled it. A lot of people wish to save money, so they go buy something from the guy in the back alley selling stolen goods out of his trunk, and they know that these goods are stolen. And we need to be careful about our akhirah, because if we know that this person stole the TV, and then we buy the TV from them for half the price that we would get it in Walmart, then we think that we're being slick or getting ahead, but in reality we are just like the person who stole it, and that property is haram for us. So we shouldn't cut corners with these type of things and buy off the black market, as they call it. Another narration says, and it will be ordered to throw him in the fire, and he will remain in that place forever. Prophet is also reported to have said, if one is a Muslim, he must not practice misappropriation of money or funds. For I have heard from Jibreel that deceit and cheating belong to the hellfire. Then he continued, one who cheats a Muslim is not from us. One who embezzles the believers is also not from us. How often do we see this? We see this, unfortunately, a lot with business owners, that they will get over on other people, cheat other people. They say, okay, this person doesn't know, so I'll charge him this price. Whereas a person who knows, I'll charge him at this price, for example. Or they say, something is wrong with your car, I need to fix it, but there's nothing wrong with the car. They just want to charge money, and they take the car, they don't do anything, they give it back, and they charge money. This type of thing is cheating the other person. I remember one time I went to a dentist, and the dentist said, oh, you have 11 cavities. I said, how come, I have 11? I don't think so. I went, and they wanted astronomical amount of money to fix it. So then I went and I found a Muslim dentist, alhamdulillah, and he did the x-ray, and he showed me, he said, those people lied to you. You don't have any cavities. Your teeth are fine. I don't know. They just wanted to take money from you. So they were willing to drill in my teeth, for example, and fix something that didn't need to be fixed, just to get some money. This example, cheating the other person. But then, alhamdulillah, Muslim brother was honest, and I stayed with that person. So it shows, like from the last lesson, it said that not fulfilling the promise or misappropriating the funds and the trust, these type of things bring about poverty. Because when the person realizes that you are cheating someone else, they will not go business with you. But when they know that you're honest, even though you may take a loss in that sense, they will feel more comfortable with you, and they'll go and do business with you. So it pays to be honest. Another narration from Al-Kafi, we mentioned this narration before. He said, there are three qualities of a sign of a munafiq, of hypocrite, even if he prays and fasts and calls himself a Muslim: if he lies, or he breaks the promise, or he misappropriates the trust. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, there are four things, even if one of them enters a house, it causes economic catastrophe, and it never remains blessed: misappropriating the trust, stealing, wine, and adultery. So he says, if one or more members of a household indulge in one of these things, such a household is deprived from barakat, or divine blessings. It brings about economic downfall. And he says it has to be clarified that the house of the thief is deprived of barakat, not the place where the robbery happened at. So if someone breaks into someone's house, it's not that house that remains devoid of barakat. It happens to the house of the one who is the thief. His house remains, deprived of divine blessings. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, trustworthiness causes one to be self-sufficient financially, and misappropriation causes poverty. This is what I was saying before, that if you if a person gains a reputation of being untrustworthy, then no one is going to want to do business with that person until he works and builds up his trust that he previously had, which is very difficult for someone to do, because once they are known with that stain, unfortunately, that stain stays on them and is very difficult to remove that. And people will be very skeptical. The narrator says, I said to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that there is a lady in Medina and people leave their daughters for training and education with her. And we have observed that she could maintain herself with so little, but we have never known her to have any financial problem. The Imam replied, it is because she is truthful and trustworthy. These two qualities increase the sustenance. So this is one of the ways we always want to know how we can increase our rizq or our sustenance. Two of these qualities are mentioned by Imam here, that if we are truthful and we are trustworthy, our sustenance will increase. And we need to be truthful and trustworthy with other people. And we also need to be truthful and trustworthy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to honor our covenant with Allah. We need to be trustworthy in when we say that we will follow his commands, that we will do that, and that we will follow his messenger, we will do that. And when we say that we will follow the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that we will uphold that trust. Another narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is, do not be deceived by the prolonged sajda and ruku of a person. Don't be deceived by the prolonged sajda and ruku of a person. They may be part of his habits that he is used to doing, but look at his trust, his truthfulness, and his trustworthiness. Many people may make salat, yet at the same time, they'll be treacherous towards other people. We look at the munafiqeen, the hypocrites. They pray outwardly, they fast outwardly, yet within themselves, they are corrupt. How many people came and played the part of a Muslim, but caused great fitna in religion and great problems in religion, and narrated many false things. We look at Abu Huraira, for example. He came along only like 3 years before the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yet somehow he narrated the majority of the ahadith, and even narrated so many lies that even Omar ibn al-Khattab beat him for lying. So we see that some people play the part of a Muslim on the outside, but on the inside they are not the Muslim. So we should not look at the sajda and ruku of the person. We need to look at, if they are truthful or they are trustworthy. He said, thus it is these qualities that prove righteousness and piety, or taqwa. Some people, maybe we see that they pray in the masjid, or they pray in Jum'ah, or they pray in majlis, but they are cheating people in their business, and they are not fulfilling their promises to their brothers or to other people. Then how can these people be considered as good if they break all their promises and they misappropriate the trusts? He says, we have numerous traditions dealing with this subject. They emphatically state that it is wajib to guard the trust and haram to misappropriate it, whether the one who entrusts it is a Muslim or is a kafir. It doesn't matter. Well, no matter what they believe in, if it's haram for us to misappropriate their trust. It's even wajib to protect the goods that are entrusted by anasabi, those who have animosity towards Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. Even that we know that these are the worst type of people, that we still have to honor the trust in regard to them. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, fear Allah and return the entrusted thing to the owner. Even if the one who murdered Ali ibn Abi Talib entrusts me with something, I will deliver it to him when he desires. So we see the importance of this. We have mentioned these narrations before in other chapters. The same Imam, he says, then fear Allah and guard the trust placed by the white as well as the black people. It means no discrimination in the trust. Some people maybe think that, okay, I only have to keep it with my people. Maybe the person is white. He said, I can honor my people or my ethnicity, or the same could be for um, African brothers could say, oh, I'll honor it between us, but with the other group, I will not honor it. Neither one of these are right. The Imam says, guard the trust. It doesn't matter the ethnicity, whether it belongs to white or black. Even the one who entrusts is even if he is one of the Khawarij, one of those who fought Amir al-Mu'mineen, or if it was a Syrian. And at this, it says that is even if he is confirmed enemy of Ahlul Bayt. We see that he mentions Syrian in this time because in that time, those who hated Imam Ali were predominantly in Syria because Muawiyah, and they cursed Imam Ali alayhi salam from the pulpits for 80 years. Even when the Syrians found out that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam died, they said, how did he die? They said he died in the masjid while he got struck with a sword while he was in sujood. They said Ali prayed. They didn't even believe that Ali ibn Abi Talib prayed because of all the propaganda that was done against him from Syria. So Imam is saying that even if they're from those people, then we still have to honor the trust. Someone asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, is it allowed to misappropriate the property of a Nasabi? Imam replied, honor the trust of every person who entrusts you with it or seeks your advice, even if it is the killer of Imam Hussein. So there's very strong words that we have to honor and do right by people. It doesn't matter if they don't believe the way we do. We need to honor them and be good with them in this regard when it comes to honoring the trust and fulfilling the promises. He says that one of the companions asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and one of your followers considers the property and blood of Bani Umayyah permissible for himself. He is also in possession of some property entrusted to him by the Bani Umayyah. The Imam replied, restore the entrusted property to its owner, even if they are Majus, the fire worshippers. I remember some brothers from other school of thought in Islam from my home state, and they thought it was permissible to rob and to steal from the non-Muslims. Unfortunately, in my state, I don't know if it's the same like this now, but 20 years ago, yes, the most notorious robbers and thieves and armed robbers, they were all Muslims. They all had Muslim names. They all had Muslim backgrounds. They were American Muslims, but they were known for robbing and stealing. But they said they justified it, and they said, well, we robbed the drug dealers and we robbed the banks because the banks charge interest, and the drug dealers shouldn't be selling drugs, so we rob them and we take their money and we keep it for ourselves, and they rob and steal from those who are non-Muslims. When, for example, when they went to penitentiary, they would rob and steal. They would honor the Muslims, but for the non-Muslims, when they went to go to the store and buy stuff, they would break in their room, kick the door, and run in there with knives and steal from them and say, and I would tell them, you can't do that to other people. And so they're non-Muslims. It doesn't matter. They're kafir. And we only have to honor the Muslims. But this isn't the way of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. This is not the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And these actions will actually push people away from Islam. So it's not the way of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Imam Sadiq also said, Allah has not sent any messenger but with the order to propagate the truth and restoring of the trust, whether of a righteous person or a sinner. Imam Qadam alayhi salam, he says, regarding the person who has entrusted someone with something valuable, the trustee is an Arab, and he is competent enough not to return the trust, whereas the one who entrusts is a wretched Kharaji, those who fought Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. The Imam says, tell him to return the trust, because it is a divine trust that he is entrusted with, meaning that according to the divine command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has to restore the trust. We see that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he migrated from Mecca to Medina, all the things that were entrusted with him, he left them with Imam Ali alayhi salam, and told Imam Ali to stay back and then give these people the trust that were entrusted with me, return them to their owners. The Prophet could have taken all of those things and went to Medina, and said, okay, I'm going to start a new life and I'm taking all their stuff because they are kafir. But astaghfirullah, he wouldn't do this, and this is against Islam, and he didn't do it. So neither should we. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam advised his Shia. He said, you must return the trust when required by the one who has sent Muhammad as a messenger with trust, even if the killer of my father Hussein had entrusted me with the sword with which he had slain him, I would have delivered it back to him. So we see that the Imam is swearing in this, using a swearing, qasam. So it shows the importance of this. And he says, even if the killer of my father, which would be the one who was the worst person of that time, the one who killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if he gave him something, he would return it back to him. He said, the greater the importance of a duty in Islamic law, the greater is the effect put in by shaitan to deviate a person from fulfilling it. So whatever is more important, shaitan will put his effort into that and try to deviate us in that thing, put doubts in our mind or put insinuations in our mind. No, we don't have to honor them. They don't like Islam anyway. They don't like us anyway. We should just go ahead and get over on them or treat them bad or take their stuff. But Imam is saying that we cannot do this. Anything else is waswas shaitaniya, so the whisperings of shaitan. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, if a person makes good the trust in his possession, he unties 1,000 knots that had tied him to the hellfire. So do not be sluggish in delivering the trusts. When one becomes a trustee, Iblis or Shaitan, he orders 100 of his assistants to follow him so that they may deviate him and suggest him to misappropriate that trust. They continue to pursue him until he is doomed, except the one who is saved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every historian has recorded that even prior to the declaration of Nubuwwah or prophethood, the disbelievers from Quraysh, they called the prophet by the title Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Even though they didn't like him, they hated the prophet and they didn't like his message, they still said he was trustworthy. The disbelievers trusted him to the extent that even though they did not heed his call and did not profess Islam, they deposited their valuables with him. The trust in the prophet's trustworthiness was not restricted to the Quraysh alone, but was shared by the people of the other tribes and the other areas as well. When these people came to Mecca during the Hajj season, they used to put their belongings in the safe custody of the prophet. This continued after the declaration of prophethood. So when the prophet migrated to Medina, as I said before, that he gave all these things to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said he proclaimed loudly every morning and evening in Mecca that whoever had kept anything with Muhammad may come and take it now. So the Imam, he returned those trusts back to their owners. It says misappropriation is the opposite of safekeeping, is of three types. One is breach of trust with Allah, and the other is with the Prophet, and the last one is with the people. So the first type we'll talk about is the trust of Allah. In Surah Ahzab, ayat 72, Allah says, surely we offered the trust to the heavens and the earth, and the mountains, but they refused to be unfaithful. They refused to be unfaithful to it and feared from it, and man has turned unfaithful to it. Surely he is unjust and ignorant. The author says, what is meant by divine trust that was offered to these mountains and the earth and the heavens? The scholars have different opinion in this regard. Some have the opinion that it denotes the grace of intellect given by Allah. The safeguarding of this trust means that man should employ it to recognize and obey his creator. According to other scholars, this trust consists of the laws of Islam that he had sent to his prophet. These laws are a divine trust. To guard these laws means to obey them faithfully. It is obvious that the heaven, the earth, and the mountains did not possess the ability to protect these trusts, hence they refrained from accepting them. Man was competent to obey the command of his creator and therefore accepted the trust, but he allows his emotions to subvert his intellect and permits his desires to override his reason. He therefore ignores the laws he had agreed to obey. He had agreed to obey, oblivious of divine retribution. This is the breach of trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when researching this ayah, I found some very interesting narrations and interesting hadith that we can bring for this discussion. So Allah says in this ayat, He says, "Inna aradna amanata ala samawati wal ardi wal jibala فأبينا أن يحملنها واشفقنا منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا." Sorry, my text is very small. He says, indeed, we offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they all declined to bear it, being fearful of it. But man assumed it, for he was wrong and ignorant. So when we look at the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we find in Tafsir, we find that this trust is referred to as the wilayat of the Imams. Imam Rida alayhi salam said about this verse that the trust, let me see if I can pull up this, maybe I have on my phone. Imam Rida alayhi salam said about this verse that the trust is the walaya, and whoever claims it without right is a disbeliever. Second here, I have this, yeah. Zoom in here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. From Abul Hassan Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam and Qawl Allah Azza wa Jal, about the saying of Allah. Then he reads this ayat. He says, Faqala, the Imam says, Al-amana al-walaya. So the trust here in this verse is the walayat. Man ada'aha bighayri haqq kafir. So whoever claims it, whoever claims the walayat without being in the right is a disbeliever. This is Tafsir Burhan, volume 8, page 56, hadith number 4. And then we have other hadith about this. Let's see, from An Abi Ja'far, for Imam Bakr alayhi salam, about this verse. It quotes the verse, Qala hiya al-walaya, it is walaya, the amana. And it says, who bore it, the man, in the verse it says, وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ, and who bore this walayat, that was what the rest of the verse says, that was unjust and was ignorant. وَالْإِنسَانَ الَّذِي حَمَلَهَا, and the man who bore it was Abu Fulan. So when we say Fulan, is when the Imams, they don't want to mention the name of someone, or either the name was mentioned but it was removed due to taqiyya. So what's interesting here is that if we look at the grammatical structure of this verse, it's in the singular. Yet, unfortunately, some translators have translated it into the plural form, actually. This is the problem. When we look at the verse, we pull it up here. Let me see if I have here. Let me pull up the verse real quick. Quran 33:72. So I was looking at this on Quran.com, for example, and it says, but okay, indeed, we offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they all declined to bear it, being fearful of it. But humanity accepted it, for they are truly wrongful to themselves and ignorant of the consequences. So if you read this verse, you will think that this is talking about the humanity as a whole, and it is a plural, and it is talking about everyone. They prove wrongful to themselves and ignorant of the consequences. But when we look at the ayat, it says, وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ إِنَّهُ, verily he, singular, who is singular, Kana, he was, one person, singular, ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا, he was wrong and he was ignorant. It doesn't say إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا ظَلُومًا وَجَهُولًا, for example, verily they, and kanu, they were unjust and they were ignorant. It doesn't say that humanity as a whole or a whole group of people here. It singles out one person. It says that وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. Doesn't say nas, for example. But it says innahu, one person, verily he was unjust and he was ignorant. So it's very important just from this, when we look at the Arabic translation, that a lot of time they play with the translation, and it shows the importance of learning Arabic, because we can see that this verse is clearly talking about one person who assumed this amana and was unjust and was ignorant. But who is this one person? And we see what the Imam, he says, Abu Fulan. And what is this trust that this person took, where he proved to be unjust and he proved to be ignorant? We see that the Imams, alayhi salam, said that this amana in this verse is walayat. And the one who takes the walayat without haq, without the right, is a disbeliever. So it's very important when we look into these verses, they become very clear for us. And we have to be careful of the translations as much as we can. So the next part, he says, intellect, or the faculty of reasoning, is one of the greatest trusts of Allah, has bestowed upon man, and this trust demands that man continually honor it. We must not say or do anything that is against reason. If we allow our desire to conquer our reason, we have committed a breach of trust with Allah. So from the authors, one of the explanations, from all the explanations I was seeing, it always is saying that this amana was walayat. But for the sake of the text, the author probably has a different narration where it could also mean intellect. But it would seem strange because of the context of the grammatical structure of this verse, that one person took this and became wrong and ignorant. But for the sake of the text, we can say that intellect is a trust of Allah. It might not be the trust that is mentioned in this verse, but it is a trust that Allah has given us. Allah has given us many trusts. So the person who does not honor the trust that Allah has given him as his intellect, he would be breaching a trust with Allah if he allows his desires to overpower his intellect. As we have mentioned.
Can I stop you? Can I stop you for a second to clarify? I've heard another version of it which says that instead of Allah, it is the Quran itself. Is that accurate statement, or have you heard that before?
Quran is a trust, but I don't think it's the trust that's mentioned in this verse. All of these things can be trusts, but if that were the case, it would seem that it would be plural, because a lot of people did not uphold that, and it says in the Quran that the Quran will complain and say that the people have forsaken me in Surah
Hmm.
Furqan. But this one is saying that I have a lot of tafsir, and I was looking through them, and the ones that I was all finding were pointing towards walayat.
Okay.
And yeah, but the Quran is a trust, is another trust that Allah has given us. I don't know if you find the reference for that. If you find it, let me know, and I can double check. I have maybe 10 different tafsirs in my home, so I can look them up and see if I find it as well. Or
Yeah,
if I
I
have
read that.
you
I read
reference
somewhere,
it.
but I can't remember exactly what tafsir I read. But that was one of the tafsir's version, was that it was the Quran that was trusted, and the mountains and the other objects that you mentioned did not have the confidence. And so Allah, men or mankind took it, and they failed it. So
Yeah, but I think if it's talking about mankind, it would say, as I said,
yeah.
plural in this, but it's all pointing to
In,
singular.
okay.
Yeah, but find it and let me know. Send me a
Inshallah.
message, and I can also look it up.
Inshallah.
Okay, let's see. Let's see where we stopped. So this was about the intellect. So the second part is, let's see if we have time to, I think we should, I think maybe we can finish this part. Okay, let's finish this part on Allah, and we'll leave it with the trust of the Prophet for the next week. So as regards the safekeeping of the trust with reference to the rules of divine law, Imam Bakr alayhi salam says, misappropriating the trust of Allah and his prophets is their disobedience. As far as the breach of trust is concerned, every person is the trustee of the laws revealed by Allah. This is the trust that we oftentimes fail to realize and we neglect, unfortunately. Thus, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran that Innal insana li rabbihi lakanud, in Surah Adiyah, that verily man to his Lord is surely ungrateful. So this is in regards to the divine laws. He says it's clear from this tradition that the divine laws promulgated for men are Allah's trust. The safeguarding of these trusts means the acceptance of these laws and implicit obedience to them. Every individual is expected to study these rules and not remain ignorant of the rules of Allah. So it's a responsibility on ourselves that we should know how to fulfill our wajibat and stay away from muharramat, what is halal, what is haram, what is mustahab, what is makruh, what is mubah, these type of categories. We should do our best in this. Every individual has a point to make. Every individual has to make a point to learn and understand the obligations and be fully conversant with all the laws governing every aspect of his or her life. After learning these laws, the individual is further obliged to accept them and follow them in sincerity. So we have to make an effort, if we are ignorant of the laws, to learn them, meaning we need to learn at least the things that we are dealing with on a daily basis. We need to know about taharat, purification. We need to know about salat. We need to know about siyam, or fasting. And we need to know about the homes, for example. These things that we are dealing with on a daily basis. If we go to Hajj, we need to learn the rules of Hajj so we can do it correctly. So at least these we need to know. It is said that when it was time for Salat, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam became fearful and restless, and his face became pale. People were shocked to see him like this and asked him for the reason. He said, it's the time for Salat. It's the time of delivering the trust that Allah had offered to the heavens, the earth, and the mountains, which they had refused. This is what I fear. However, this is not restricted to prayers. All the laws of Sharia are the trust of Allah, and prayers occupy a lofty position amongst them. It is pathetic that most of the people, the author says, it's pathetic that most of the people of our time are committing breach of divine trust. People are so engrossed in the materialistic world that they have no time to learn the basic laws of religion. We see this every day. Or to act upon them. Day by day, religion is given less and less importance, although more than before. The need of the day is that people should learn about the religion and propagate it to others. We must ourselves act upon the laws first faithfully and also call others to do the same. So this, people are more concerned about what's going on, materialistic wise, and not so much religion. Reminds me when one of the Sheikh, he went into this tent that they had in Karbala, and people would come in and they would ask the owner of that place, what is the password for the Wi-Fi? And the guy, he laughed and said, 10 years ago or so, 20 years ago, people used to ask the direction of the Qibla. So now they just ask for the Wi-Fi code. So people are, more concerned about keeping up with their social media and what's going on, and less involved in scholarly discussions or their ibadat, their acts of worship and all this. So we have to put some effort into these things and uphold these things, because all of these are a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this ends the first trust, which is the trust that Allah has given to us. And the next week, we'll talk about the trust of the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad
اللهم صل على
wa ajal farajahu.